Over the past few months, there's been a headline everywhere in the real estate media that's caught a lot of attention. It goes something like this: owning a home is now cheaper than renting in more than half of the U.S. That headline has been cited in outlets like Redfin. And if you're a real estate investor or developer, it raises an obvious question. If owning is cheaper than renting, then why is demand, especially in BTR product, still strong? According to the study, roughly 55 to 60% of U.S. counties now show a lower monthly cost to own versus rent. These comparisons usually include mortgage payment, property taxes, insurance. So on paper, ownership looks more affordable than it has in years. So the assumption is simple: renters should buy. But that's not what's happening. And understanding why matters a lot if you're building, investing in, or operating rental housing in 2026. I'm Corey Bonner. I work with real estate investors, developers, and operators. And what I want to do in this video is break down why this headline is technically accurate and still misleading. Let's start with what the data actually gets right. Yes, in many markets, the monthly cost of owning has come down relative to rent. That's happening because home prices have stabilized in certain regions. Rents rose quickly coming out of 2021 and 2022. Buyers today are often putting more money down. So when you compare monthly payments alone, owning versus renting can look very different than it did a few years ago. That part of the headline is real. What the headline leaves out, owning versus renting reality, what the headline doesn't capture is how people actually make housing decisions. Renters aren't choosing between a rent payment and a mortgage payment. They're choosing between renting, the full cost, risk, and responsibility of home ownership. That's where barriers to home ownership come into play. Barrier number one, upfront capital. Even when owning is cheaper month to month, buyers still need a down payment. They got to pay for the closing costs, cash reserves. Let's say for a $400,000 home, that often means $25,000 to $40,000 in cash before you even move in. That upfront requirement alone keeps a large portion of renters in the rental market, regardless of monthly affordability. Now, the barrier number two that we see is qualification risk. Another thing the headlines ignore is qualification. Credit standards change. Employment history does matter. Self-employed income is still hard to underwrite. Many renters could afford a mortgage payment but can't qualify cleanly or don't want to risk getting halfway through the process and being denied. That uncertainty does keep people renting. Barrier number three, maintenance versus volatility. Home ownership shifts the risk. Repairs, unexpected expenses, time commitment. Do you want to mow your lawn or do you want someone else to take care of it? One major repair can wipe out years of monthly savings. Many renters aren't avoiding home ownership because of costs. They're avoiding it because of volatility, unknown risks. Barrier number four, flexibility has real value. This rarely shows up in the data. People move more often than they used to. Jobs change faster. Households change even faster. Flexibility is a part of home ownership. Affordability and renting, especially in build-to-rent, offers predictability without long-term commitment. Why rental demand stays strong? This is a key takeaway for real estate investors and developers. Rental demand today is not driven by rent being cheap. It's driven by upfront barriers, risk tolerance, lifestyle flexibility. That's why build-to-rent rental demand continues to perform. BTR sits between this apartment living and traditional home ownership. It offers space, privacy, predictability without crossing the ownership threshold. What this means for 2026 and beyond, even if interest rates come down, even if home ownership affordability improves slightly, those barriers don't disappear overnight, which means rental demand will remain durable. Build-to-rent demand remains structural. Well-operated rental communities will outperform. This isn't a temporary imbalance. It's behavioral shifts in the real estate market. What smart operators focus on. The best performing build-to-rent and rental projects don't compete on price alone. They compete on ease, on the service that they get, the predictability that comes, reduced friction. They remove stress, not just dollars. That's where long-term performance comes from. Now, the takeaway here. So yes, owning versus renting may look different on paper in many markets, but real estate housing decisions aren't made on a spreadsheet alone. They're made around the risk profile, the cash constraints. The U.S. is experiencing some of the highest debt in history. So that liquidity is causing issues. What flexibility do people want these days? And the uncertainty. And as long as those factors exist, rental demand and build-to-rent demand, they're not going anywhere. If you want to see how build-to-rent projects are positioned to capture this rental demand and how strong operators protect long-term performance, I've put together a free case study. You can grab it at corybonner.com/case study. And if you're a real estate investor or a developer who wants clear operator level insight on where this market is actually headed, make sure to subscribe. We're going to keep breaking down these stories behind the headlines.